Chapter 1, Fundamentals. Why small changes make a big difference. The amazing power of small habits. The fate of British cycling changed in just one day in 2013. The British Professional Racing Organisation hired Dave Brailsford as chief executive. At that time, professional racers in Britain had gone nearly 100 years without any awards. The British have won only one men's singles gold medal at the Olympic Games since 1908, and their performance has worsened at the world's biggest racing event, the Tour de France. For 110 years, no British athlete has won this tournament. In fact, the performance of the British riders was so poor that one of Europe's leading bicycle manufacturers refused to sell bicycles to the British team, citing fears that sales would decline if other professional riders saw the British team using their racing bikes. Brailsford was hired to put England on a new trajectory. What sets him apart from his predecessors is his steadfast commitment to pursuing a strategy he calls the marginal gain complex. The philosophy defines this as finding a tiny improvement in everything you do every day. The principle comes from the idea that if you break down everything you can think of about cycling, and then improve it 1% at a time, you will make a significant change when you put it all together, says Brailsford. Brailsford and the coaching staff started by making small adjustments that you would expect from a professional racing team. They reconfigured the saddles to make them more comfortable and applied rubbing alcohol to the tires for better traction. They also required riders to wear thermal vests to maintain ideal muscle heat levels while cycling and used biofeedback sensors to monitor each athlete's response to each specific workout. The team tested a variety of fabrics with ventilation tubes and had their outdoor racers try out indoor racing suits, which have proven to be lighter and more breathable. But they don't stop here. Brailsford's and its team continue to seek 1% progress in unexpected areas. They tested many different massage gels to find the one that helped muscle recovery the fastest. They even hired a surgeon to teach each athlete how to wash your hands best to minimize the risk of catching a cold. They decide on pillows and mattresses that provide the best quality sleep for racers. They even repainted the interior of the team transport white, which allowed them to see tiny specks of dust that would normally go unnoticed but could degrade the performance of a sophisticated racing bike. When the things mentioned above and hundreds of other small improvements combine, they bring about rapid changes that no one could have thought of. After only 5 years since Brailsford took charge, the British cycling team dominated the track in the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, winning more than 60% of the Olympic gold medals. 4 years later, when the Olympics were held in London, the British once again took the lead when they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. Also that year, Bradley Wiggins became the first British rider to win the Tour de France. A year later, his teammate Chris Froome won the championship and maintained that streak in 2015, 2016, and 2017, which helped the British team win the Tour de France 5 times in 6 years. During the 10 years from 2007 to 2017, British riders won the World Championship 178 times and won Olympic gold medals 66 times. Paralympic and 5-time Tour de France champion, this is considered the most successful racing team in the history of world cycling. How can this happen? How did a team that was previously filled with just ordinary racers transform into a team of champions with only small changes that at first seemed to make only the simplest of differences? Why do small, little by little improvements create such amazing results, and how can you do that in your life? Why small habits make a big change? It's easy to overestimate the importance of a special moment and underestimate the value of small, daily advances. Too often we convince ourselves that great successes require great actions. Whether it's losing weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal, we pressure ourselves to do amazing things that everyone else will praise. Meanwhile, a 1% improvement isn't that remarkable. Sometimes it's nothing, but it matters a lot, especially over the long term. The difference a small improvement can make over time is amazing. Here's how the math works. If you can make 1% progress every day, you'll make 37 times more progress in the time you put in. On the contrary, if you get 1% worse every day continuously for a year, you will definitely return to zero. Anything that starts with small victories or insignificant failures will gradually improve. 1% improvement everyday habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Just like how money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of habits are multiplied if you repeat them. These habits seem to make little difference on a daily basis, and their effects over months and years can be enormous. Only after 2, 5, or perhaps 10 years will we look back and clearly see the value of good habits and the cost of bad habits. This is perhaps a difficult concept to evaluate in everyday life. We often ignore small changes because they seem insignificant at the time. If you save a small amount of money now, you won't become a billionaire. If you exercise regularly 3 days a week, you still won't have a good body. If you study Chinese for an hour tonight, you still won't really learn the language. We make a few changes, but the results often don't appear quickly and we slip back into old habits. Unfortunately, the transformation process is slow. This slowness also makes it easier for us to fall back into bad habits. If you eat an unreasonable meal today, it won't have any effect. If you work late and neglect your family, they will forgive you. If you procrastinate and leave your work for tomorrow, you will usually still have time to complete it later. We easily dismiss an intention. Day after day, when we make the same 1% mistakes over and over again by making the same bad decisions, making small mistakes, and making excuses for those mistakes, those small choices we make will lead to bad results. It's an accumulation of lots of mistakes, 1% here, 1% there, and they obviously bring problems. The effects of changing habits are similar to the effects of changing coordinates on a flight's route. Imagine that you are on a flight from Los Angeles to New York. If the plane takes off from LAX airport and then the pilot makes a correction just 3.5 degrees north, you will land in Washington, D.C. instead of New York. Just a small, insignificant change during takeoff, the nose of the plane only deviated a few feet, and yet you flew across the United States and landed hundreds of miles from your destination. Likewise, a seemingly small change in your daily routine can direct your life to a completely different destination. Choosing 1% better or 1% worse may not seem like a difference at the time, but in the long run those choices will determine the difference between who you are and what you can do. Success is a product of daily habits, not a once-in-a-lifetime transformation. And right at this moment it doesn't matter whether you are a successful person or not. The important thing here is that your habits point you on the right path to success. What you need to do here is pay more attention to the trajectory rather than the current results. If you don't change your habits, there will be no results. On the contrary, if you break your current habits, a little every month, and you're on the path to financial freedom, even if the change is slower than you initially expected. The changes in you are the measure of your habits. Net worth is a measure of your financial habits. Weight is a measure of your eating habits. Knowledge is the measure of your learning habits. Clutter is a measure of your neat and tidy habits. You will get what you do repeatedly. If you want to predict what your future holds, all you need to do is watch the ups and downs of small positive changes and setbacks, and see how your daily choices over the long term, 10 or 20 years from now, will drag the chart down. Do you spend less than your monthly income? Do you go to the gym every week? Do you read books and learn new knowledge every day? Those little battles are what determine your future. Time will clearly define the line between success and failure. Whatever you feed it, over time it will grow like that. If it's a good habit, time will be your ally. If it's a bad habit, time will be your enemy. Habit is a double-edged sword. Bad habits will cause you to fail, just as easily good habits will cause you to make positive changes. That is why it is necessary to clearly understand the details. You need to know how habits work and design them to suit your preferences, so that you can avoid the dangerously sharp edge of the knife. Habits can be your ally or your opponent. How does the process of creating a difference play? Imagine a block of ice is placed on the table right in front of you, the room is cold and you can see yourself exhaling smoke. The temperature in the room is 25 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the room is warmed up slowly. 26 degrees, 27 degrees, 28 degrees. The ice cube is still there on the table right in front of you. 29 degrees, 30, 31, and still nothing happened. And then the next 32 degrees. The ice block begins to melt. With each step, it seems difficult to notice the difference from the previous temperature, but it brings a huge change. A breakthrough at this moment is often the result of many previous actions that have laid the necessary foundation for fundamental change. We can see this pattern playing out everywhere. People only discover cancer cells when they have developed to 80% of their life cycle, and spread in the human body within a few months. The bamboo tree is just a bamboo shoot for the first 5 years. This is when it develops a root system that penetrates deep into the ground before growing by leaps and bounds, reaching a height of 90 feet in just 6 weeks. Likewise, habits don't seem to make a difference until you push past the threshold and reach a better level of performance. During the early and middle stages of the journey, there will often be periods of discouragement. You expect to see significant progress and then feel disappointed because the changes seem ineffective after days, weeks, or months of implementation. This is different from doing something without a clear goal. That is the inevitability of an accumulation process. The final great results are still waiting behind. This is also one of the reasons why it is not easy to build and maintain habits. People make some changes but then don't see clear results and so they decide to stop. You think, I've been running every day for a month, so why hasn't anything changed in my body? Once you have those kinds of thoughts, it's easy for good habits to fall by the wayside. But to make big differences, you need to stick with the habits long enough to break this plateau, I call it the plateau of potential. If you're struggling with building good habits and eliminating bad habits, don't stop because you're missing out on your ability to improve. This is also a common state because you have not yet overcome the stable state of your hidden abilities. Complaining about not achieving success despite trying hard is like complaining about ice cubes not melting when you raise the temperature from 25 to 31 degrees. Your efforts will not be wasted. It's just accumulating. And everything will change at 32 degrees. At the point when you finally break through the plateau of your latent abilities, people will hail it as an overnight miracle success. People only see the end result but not the whole process. But you are the one who clearly knows how hard you have been trying for a long time. There are times when it seems like all your efforts are not bringing any results. This is what has brought about today's leap. This is how humans balance natural pressures. Two tectonic plates collided with another tectonic plate millions of years ago, and the force of the collision still silently affected all three tectonic plates at the same time. Then one day they collided again, in the same way that had happened centuries ago, but this time with a force many times stronger than before. An earthquake occurred. Change takes years before it explodes in one fell swoop. Mastery requires patience. The San Antonio Spurs basketball team, one of the most successful basketball teams in the history of the NBA, hung a quote from social reformer Jacob Riis in the team's locker room. When there was a deadlock, I went over and watched the saw blade of the rock cutter cut into the rock. The saw blade cut into the rock probably 100 times, but not a single crack appeared on the surface of the rock. The 100th time, and with just one strong blow, the rock broke in half. And I know that it was not because of that blow that the rock broke, but because of a whole previous process. All great things start with small things. Each habit seed is a small, single decision. But when these decisions are repeated, habits will take root and grow strong. And when the root system itself is strong, branches will grow. Breaking an old unhealthy habit is like uprooting a healthy oak tree within ourselves. And establishing new healthy habits is like nurturing a tiny flower every day at the same time. But what determines whether we stick with the habit long enough to survive the plateau of latent potential and achieve a breakthrough? Forget goals, focus instead on systems. There is a common belief that the best way to achieve everything you want in life, like staying in shape, running a successful business, living more comfortably, worrying less, spending more time with family and friends, is to set specific and achievable goals. I have also built my habits that way for many years. Each habit comes with a goal that needs to be achieved. I set goals to get good grades in school, reach the desired weight in the gym, and earn as much profit as I wanted in business. There are also a few successful goals, but most of them fail. Suddenly I began to realize that the results I achieved had little to do with the goals I set, but were closely related to the system I followed. So what is the difference between system and goal? The first difference I learned from Scott Adams, the cartoonist behind the Dilbert comic strip. A goal is the result you want to achieve. The system is the process that leads you to those results. If you are a coach, your goal is probably to win a championship. Your system here is how you recruit players, manage assistant coaches, and instruct practices. If you're a business owner, your goal is probably to build $1 million business empire. Your system is how you evaluate your business ideas, hire employees, and run marketing campaigns. If you're a musician, your goal is probably to play a new masterpiece. Your system is how often you practice, how you break and exceed strict standards, and how you receive instructions from your instructor. And now an interesting question arises: if you absolutely do not care about the results and only focus on your system, will you be sure to succeed? For example, if you are a volleyball coach and you don't care about the goal of winning a championship and only focus on how your team practices every day, will you be successful? Real winning is getting better every day. Three-time Super Bowl champion Bill Walsh said, "The score will take care of itself." This is also true in other areas of life. If you want better results, forget about setting goals. Instead, focus on the system. What do I mean here? So are goals meaningless? Of course not. Goals give us direction, but systems help us map out our progress. A series of problems arise when you think too much about your goals and don't have enough time for system design. Problem number 1, winners and losers both have the same goal. Setting goals is a typical case of one-sided evaluation. We focus only on those who succeed in the end, the survivors, and give one-sided credit for their ambitious goals that helped them succeed, while forgetting all the people who had those same goals but didn't. All athletes participating in the Olympic Games aspire to win a gold medal. Every candidate wants to be recruited. And if successful and unsuccessful people share the same goal, then of course there will be no difference between the goals of winners and losers. It was not the goal of winning the Tour de France that pushed the British team to the peak of their career. Like other professional racing teams, certainly in previous years they also aspired to win the race. The goal is always the same. But only when they implement a system of continuous small improvements will they achieve exceptional results. Problem number 2, achieving a goal is only a temporary change. Imagine you have a messy room and you set a goal to clean it up. If you officially start cleaning, you will now have a neat and clean room. If you continue to be messy like this, these bad habits will first lead to a messy room, then soon you will see a whole mess and hopefully an improvement. You're essentially chasing the same result because you've never changed the system behind it. You treat a symptom without understanding the cause of the disease. Achieving a goal just changes your life momentarily. This is just a sudden improvement. We think we need to change the results, but the results are not the problem. What we really need to change is the system that produces those results. When you solve a problem at the outcome level, you only solve the temporary problem. To get better, you need to solve the problem at the system level. Modify the input factors, the output factors will change accordingly. Problem number 3, goals limit your happiness. The illusion underlying every goal is, once I achieve my goal, I will be happy. The problem with a goal-first mentality is that you constantly put happiness aside until you achieve something. I have fallen into this trap more times than I can count. For many years, happiness for me was something I would enjoy in the future. I promised myself that once I gained 20 pounds of muscle or after my business was featured in the New York Times Magazine, then I would take a break. In addition, goals create an either-or conflict. Either you achieve the goal and succeed, or you fail and are a disappointment. You imprison yourself by thinking about a narrow version of happiness. This is a mistake. This is not the same as what happens in your real life will perfectly match the itinerary you have planned in your head. It's nonsense to limit your satisfaction to a scenario when there are so many paths to success. The psychological state that puts the system first will bring special medicine. When you love the process more than the result, you don't have to wait to allow yourself to be happy. You can feel satisfied at any time while in the process. And a system can succeed in many different ways, not just according to your initial assumptions. Problem number 4, goals will conflict with progress in the long run. After all, a goal-first mindset can create a yo-yo effect. Many runners train hard for months, but as soon as they cross the finish line, they stop training. Race is no longer what motivates them. When you focus on working hard to achieve a goal, what motivates you to keep going once you've achieved it? This is also the reason why many people return to old habits after achieving a certain goal. The purpose of goal planning is to win the game. The purpose of building a system is to continue the game. Long-term strategy is thinking without setting goals. It is not about achieving a certain goal. It is a cycle of constant change and continuous progress. Ultimately, your commitment to the process will determine your progress. System of atomic habits. If you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. Bad habits repeat over and over again not because you don't want to change, but because you have a faulty change system. You don't raise the bar. You downgrade your system. Focusing on the overall system rather than on a single goal is one of the key foundations of this book. This is also the deeper meaning behind the word atom. By now you've probably realized that an atomic habit is a tiny change, a marginal achievement, a 1% improvement. But atomic habits are not just old habits, they are also very small. They are very small, but they are part of a larger system. Just as atoms are collections of molecules, atomic habits are collections of emergent results. Habits are like the atoms of our lives. Each habit is a fundamental unit that contributes to our overall improvement. At first these tiny changes seem ineffective, but soon they coalesce and create many times greater victories without wasting the effort we have put in. They are both small and very big. This is the meaning of the phrase atomic habit, a process of training or regular practice that is not only simple and easy to do, but it is the source of extraordinary power, part of a deeply evolving system. Chapter Summary. 1. Habits are compound interest from self-improvement. 1% progress every day will be a significant number in the long run. 2. Habit is a double-edged sword. They can serve you or work against you, which is why we need to understand them in detail. 3. Small changes often don't make a noticeable difference until you pass your personal threshold. The most powerful changes of any profound process take time. All you need to do is be patient. 4. An atomic routine is a small routine, part of a larger system. Just as atoms are aggregates of molecules, atomic habits are aggregates of remarkable results. 5. If you want better results, then forget about setting goals. Instead, focus on your systems. Don't raise your goals. Upgrade your systems. Thank you for watching. If you find it interesting, don't forget to give the channel a like, share and subscribe to support our team.